Hello, this is Silvia Pavoni, economics editor of The Banker, and I'm talking to Rubens Amaral, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Bladex, in Bladex beautiful ocean view buildings, just on the sideline of the annual meeting of the Inter-American Development Bank. We were just chatting earlier about the increased liquidity that you are seeing in your syndication deals among Latin American banks. Could you elaborate this a bit further?
Sure. Welcome to Panama. Welcome to Bladex. It's a pleasure to have you here and facing this beautiful Pacific Ocean. And definitely what we have seen since the crisis of Lehman in 2008 is that Latin America was well positioned in terms of liquidity. The central banks have accumulated important reserves that today in 2012 even is stronger than they were in 2008. And in the systems, the financial systems in the region, they also have important liquidity pools that we at Bladex are looking at how we can tap into these liquidity pools, not only for our funding needs, but also to help our clients in servicing their debt needs.
And another interesting point that you mentioned was the role that the bank can play bridging companies, bringing companies together that want to expand within the region, so both Central America and South America. So is it a role that you're seeing others obviously getting into? Is it something that Bladex continue to retain as a strong point?
In my view, honestly, we are a different bank from the other banks exactly because of that. We're concerned about helping clients to bridge the gap between the different countries. They are based in one country, they want to expand in another country, and we're in both countries. So we can help the client to understand what their needs are in the different countries and provide to them a solution that eventually other banks won't be able, because other banks, although they are expanding interregionally in Latin America, they are looking at growing at the consumer financing market, not necessarily in helping the cross-border financing or the cross-border investments of these companies. So we continue, I think, to have a competitive edge in this regard, because we look at how to help, for instance, a Mexican company to acquire a Colombian company and prepare syndication and offer the syndication throughout the region, taking advantage from this liquidity pools we discussed before.
And you mentioned Colombia, which is a country from which a few banks are coming in the region. So do you expect that competition is going to be stronger in your sector as well, because more and more banks from the region are expanding outside of their borders and becoming really, truly multi-Latinas?
Well, definitely. I think this is a very important point you're making now, because these banks are expanding. Naturally, at the beginning, they faced all these challenges of integrating the new banks they acquired into their own platforms, and there is a cultural shock, as you know, in all these acquisitions. So it will take time for them to understand what we do, but eventually they will. And we have to prepare ourselves to make sure that we keep our edge by introducing new products and services that we plan to do while they are busy integrating their new business. We're busy developing new products and services to keep our competitive edge in the region.
So we're here obviously because of the IADB meeting, which is officially starting tomorrow, but IADB goers have been around for a couple of days now. What kind of tone have you perceived from attending the various discussions, the various meetings? How is the mood?
So far, the mood is very good, although I think that there are several concerns that we had before that we don't have today, although there is still a discussion about the budget issues in the U.S. The fiscal cliff is resolved. The sequestration that they discussed recently, it happened, and now it's a matter for them to figure out the way they're going to balance their budget. But Europe, I think with the central bank's measures that have been implemented in Europe, the tail risk event that was a concern last year, it's not a concern this year. And China, again, has reaffirmed with the new government now that they plan to grow 7.5%. We put all these things together. This means music to our ears in Latin America. So the mood that we have seen so far, it's a positive mood, optimistic mood. Of course, there is a lot of liquidity in the world. We have to be careful because you know what happens when a lot of liquidity is out there and they don't have assets. So we have to look back and make sure that we don't repeat the same errors. But overall, there's a very positive tone in the discussions.
Thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you very much for coming to visit us at Bladex, and welcome to Panama, and enjoy our country.